everybody, welcome to, oh my God, season 3 of OK Everyday. Can you believe it, Jason? Season 3.
I know. It's magic. It's magic that this is still happening after going into the third year. Makes me very
I,
happy.
I do agree with you. And just to remind everyone, in case you've forgotten after the holiday break, is that OK Everyday is a podcast about how to make our lives okay every day with transactional analysis or TA. And here from our home studios are Jason Brennan and Alexi Beck. Hey, Jason.
Hey, Ollie.
And today we are talking about,
Drivers and driver behavior.
whoa, drivers and driver behaviors.
Yes, yes.
What is that?
Well, actually, do you know what, Ollie? Before we get into that,
Okay.
right, we got to explain to the audience. Your voice is maybe a little bit crackly because of what you got up to this weekend.
Oh,
And
yes.
for those of you who can see us on YouTube, what Ollie got up to this weekend is hanging on the back wall. If you can see it, if you can spy it, but beside the guitar. So Ollie, tell everybody what you did.
Listen, it's a highlight of, well, not even the beginning of the year. Apart from starting season 3 or what we're doing now, this is the highlight of the beginning of the year for sure. I entered a competition in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's called the Emerald Cup. And I won 2 gold medals, and was completely blown away. I had no expectation of winning. It was just more of a trial thing. And yeah, got 2 golds. Super stoked. And that's
Um,
one of the reasons why my voice is like this, because I think the adrenaline got to me. And after the first match, I felt like how, the feeling when you get when you don't run for a long time and then you run 5 kilometers and then you just cough your lungs out. That's the feeling that I have now.
well, I know what it's like to not run for a long time because I haven't run for a long time, let alone do 5 Ks.
But
Well done, sir. Congratulations.
but
Mucho strokes coming to you.
thank you for that. Really appreciate it. But this is definitely one thing that and we talked about this last season when all last season was about strokes.
Mm.
And we talked about it last season that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in my head is very, very similar in concept and philosophy with transactional analysis. So we'll definitely go into a deep dive of how they interconnect well together.
Yeah, I think that's a future episode.
Yes,
Either
indeed.
season three
Indeed.
or season four, or season five. Who knows? Could be a
Oh,
whole string of them.
maybe a whole season. Maybe a whole season.
I don't know if we can stretch it out that much, but let's see what happens.
I can stretch
Yeah, okay, good, good. I'll be relying on you because I don't know
it.
anything about it.
Well, listen, we're talking about drivers and driver behaviors today.
Yeah,
So for people who don't know what it is, what are we talking about?
yeah. This is a really, really nice bit of theory by a guy called Taby Kaler. Beautiful name, and I'm sure you'll pop it up for those people who are on YouTube because it's spelt in quite a difficult way. But Taby Kaler created this back in 1975, and it's been going strong since. And he's done an awful lot of work on it. He's even built some personality types around it if people are interested in that. But
Wow.
effectively, it's behaviors that kind of we learn as kids, right, from messages from authority figures. Primarily mom and dad, but then teachers. So these are messages that come at us when we're very, very young. And there's 5 different set of behaviors that link to 5 different drivers, really, to be quite honest. And you'll know them when we go through them for sure. And we all have, we all do all of them, to be honest with you, at times, but we'll have a couple of them that are kind of more prominent.
Wow.
And even I wrote about this in my book. Actually, I very rarely mention my book, but I wrote about the drivers in my book, Win, because it plays out a lot in sports, as me and Ollie will talk a little bit about as well. And again, it has pros and cons. Some that's really, really good, some that is not so good, as you'll see as we track on. And we'll actually, Ollie, will start to look at some characters who are based on some of
Oh, yeah.
these drivers, as we track on.
Well, listen, so you were talking, this is around behaviors and kind of the subconscious that is influenced a
Mm,
lot in our comes from our childhood. Like a lot
yeah,
of things in our adult life, they come from our childhood.
absolutely. You got to start
Unexpected,
somewhere.
very unexpected. But when we talk about the drivers, so what drivers are there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and I'm sure as soon as I say them,
It's
everybody
like,
will know them. So the first one is be perfect. right? There's a be perfect driver, right? If anybody interested in that one, anybody recognize that one? The next one, please others. Please others. Be strong. Okay, yes, sir. Be strong. Try hard. Okay, and the final one is hurry up. Hurry up. Do you like my little joke there?
Yeah.
So there's the
Perfect.
five. Be perfect, please others, be strong, try hard, and hurry up.
Wow. And you know what? I think when you said that we all have them
Mm.
in somewhat regard, even when you name them without knowing what they're about and kind of more detail, it kind of yeah, yeah, I know. I was like, when you say hurry up, I was like looking at the time.
Yeah,
Okay, five, four
that's
minutes
right.
into the episode. Oh, we need to
Yeah,
hurry up.
familiar because they come from our
Very
family.
familiar.
You know what I mean? That's why that word is there. But we're
Right.
going to do an episode on each one, aren't we, Ollie? We're going to because they're
Yeah.
each one is so interesting.
Yeah, that's a great
It
idea.
deserves an episode.
That's true. So, what do you say today, given that this is the first episode of the year,
Hmm.
and usually New Year's is around resolutions and, trying to be, for the lack of a better word, perfect. And kind of getting new goals, new achievements.
Yeah,
Why don't we kick it off with be perfect? What do
you
you
know
think?
what? I think that is an ideal idea. But you're quite right. The beginning of the year is a great time to reflect, slow down and reflect,
Right.
and do a bit of resetting. But often people trip themselves up because they pick goals that compete with each other. Right? So they might
Mhm.
pick way too many, you
Oh,
know, and never realistic, in terms of timeframes. So even in picking the goals, a be perfect can kick in. Would you believe
mhm.
it? But yeah, let's unwind that one and see what it looks like and what it sounds like, shall we?
I mean, I would believe it because I remember for a lot of the New Year's in my life, that's what would happen. I
Oh,
would set up very high standard, somewhat unrealistic goals,
mm,
especially if they were weight goals and stuff like that. So very very high bar and realistic goals. And then I realized at some point that closer to the middle of the year, if some of those commitments still stayed, I got really, really tired to the effect of that at the end, the second part of the year,
mm,
just I didn't want to do anything with any
yeah,
goals.
yeah, very common. People crash, goal crash, and then that's it, done. You know?
So when we talk about be perfect, what is it about?
Yeah. Um, Well, I mean, the answer is in the name, right? But
Yeah.
you actually said something there a second ago, which I thought was a brilliant phrase. You said set up. I set up these goals, and with the drivers, we can set ourselves up for failure. That's the
Mm,
problem. Is that
wow.
they can actually set us up unconsciously to fail, and certainly a be perfect driver is probably, I would say, one of the main ones to set us up for failure, because effectively what we are trying to do is unrealistic. We're trying to
Mm,
get to perfection, and that's not realistic at all. I don't think there's anything that's perfect in nature. The only thing that might come close to perfection is mathematics, because
right.
it's either right or wrong. Do you know what I mean? The equation either works or it doesn't work. But everything else is there's flaws. So this idea of trying to be perfect is a setup straight away. And where do we get it from? Well, we get it from messages from parents or teachers who might be trying to help us, but because they don't explain things fully, the child or us as children just pick up part of the message. This idea of you got to get it right. Right? Well, there's not an awful lot of things in life that are right and wrong, but the child then tries to get it right, whatever the it is. And,
Mm,
and this idea of perfection, I can't ever get it wrong,
mm,
because I'll upset somebody or I won't be good enough, and the idea, it very much brings up not okay behavior, because the messages behind it is that the little person who's trying their best, they get
mm,
these messages that I have to get it right first time, I have to be perfect, or else I'm not okay. Or the other way is, you're only okay if
get it right.
you get it right. right? So it starts to seep in, and it's repeated over time. And even things like "do your best" can kind of start to creep in there. You think it's well, that's a good idea, isn't it? Well, no, not if it's repeated
Mm.
over time, and the child then saying, "Oh, what is my best? Well, my best has to be perfect." So, and anything less than that is not okay, and therefore I'm not okay. Does that make
Sounds
sense?
heavy. Yeah, sounds very heavy.
It's one of the ones I least like, to be honest with you, because it does get in at us, and it
Right.
does really kind of undermine our self-esteem. And it is a setup because we just can't achieve it. We just cannot achieve perfection. So we've got to be careful when we start to think about it in that way or catch ourselves, because we give ourselves a hammering when we fall short.
Listen, it sounds heavy. It resonates with me a lot. And funnily enough, I'll actually bring back those two gold medals
Mm,
to kind of talk about because in my education system back in Ukraine, if you finish school with high honors, you get a gold medal,
right.
and but you don't get anything else. So it's either a gold medal or there's no like gold, silver, or bronze and whatnot.
Wow, well, hey, you
So
don't have much chances there, right?
well, you kind of, but anyone can get it. They just have to have their academic record pretty much perfect.
Yeah.
So I think they have to get in the last 3 years they can only get if A is the highest
Mm,
grade, then you can get only one or two Bs, and everything else should be straight A's, right? So it's
mm,
it's a
mm.
very high standard.
But you can hear the
And
pressure, right?
oh yeah, yeah, that's why I'm saying it's like it's very heavy. And funnily enough, all my family, so my mom, my dad, my brother, they all had gold medals. I wasn't even close.
Mm,
There was school high medals, and I always felt that kind of pressure on me. It's like, is something wrong with me, or I don't get it? I
mm,
mean, what's? But that does translate into trying to be perfect without really understanding why it's important. So or without enjoying the process.
yes.
Whereas, for example, this is something that I chose to do, and I just enjoy it. And even if I hadn't won those gold medals, nothing would have, it wouldn't have been bad or anything. But this is just kind of it's a very interesting, ironic coincidence where if I understand something,
Mm,
I can be much more successful in it, and I like it just because, whatever the reason is why I like it, but I just like it internally. I'm not driven to like it. Then it just works out.
yeah, I think that's spot on, Ali. I'm glad you mentioned about enjoyment or fun or pleasure. Uh, the Be Perfect doesn't allow an awful lot of that because
No.
it's what's known as extrinsic motivation. It's from outside.
Right.
Whereas intrinsic motivation, which is what you're talking about there, is from inside. I'm doing it for me because I like this, I enjoy this, and I want to get better at it. So I want to
Mm.
kind of stretch myself. That's all great. That stays away from perfection. Because the problem with the Be Perfect driver, it doesn't allow for mistakes.
No.
And we learn from our mistakes, but it doesn't allow for that because it's too rigid.
Right.
And that's why I think it's probably the one that's the most insidious, if that makes sense, that when it gets in there. And we know these characters, we see these characters
Oh.
who have got these Be Perfect drivers, right?
Do you want to talk about a few of them? Who
Well,
do you have in
yeah,
mind?
yeah. Who do you have in mind? If I've done a good enough job of explaining it,
You
you
know
might be
what?
able to pick one.
Working on the martial arts team going forward, I think the person that comes to mind comes from a beautiful animated movie, and it's Master Shifu from Panda Kung Fu. So I think that's a very be perfect character,
Yeah.
which is working with someone who's a complete opposite of be perfect. I think he gets there in some of the movies. He has that pressure on him being the Dragon Warrior, etc., etc.
Mm-mm.
But first, it's given from Master Shifu, where his dad, I don't remember his name, but his adopted dad, Panda Kung Fu's adopted dad, is very kind of chilled, low key. He just does the noodles and the
Yeah.
noodle soup, and like, oh, just chill out.
Is he a goose? I can't remember.
Yes, I think he's a goose or a duck or a goose. I'm not sure. I think
Could
he's a
be a
goose.
duck, actually.
But but Master Shifu, I think that was one of the ones that came to mind in this kind of martial artsy kind of
Yeah,
movie.
I think so. And you see it in his behavior because he gets really frustrated. Kung Fu Panda gets really, really frustrated about him not taking it seriously enough, for example. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or messing around too much, So the frustration really gives it away. And
true.
then later on, he gets really frustrated with himself because he starts to see that he's doing this to himself. And that's a really great one. And with the Be Perfect Driver, you do see an awful lot of frustration. You
Right.
do see an awful lot of anger coming out and people kicking things and shouting,
Mm,
you know what I mean? Which is why you do see it a lot in sports.
right.
A couple of ones that come to my mind is tennis players. You often see this in tennis, this idea of perfection.
Mm,
And there's Novak Djokovic.
mm.
He was really tight and wound up. In most of his career, and would get really frustrated when something didn't work out. And scream and shout and stuff like that. He's mellowed out an awful lot, and people I think
Mm.
like him more now because he's eased up on that side of him. He's still a brilliant player.
He's less intense, right?
Yeah,
I think.
less intense, much friendlier, and he says he gives an awful lot. If you look at his career, he gives an awful lot more strokes, positive strokes now
Mm.
to other players than he did when he was coming up because he was so wound up in himself. Another one would be Serena Williams.
Right.
They were taking it so seriously. And now I understand that it needs to be taken seriously, but you could see the tension in them
Mm.
and the frustration. And to me, that are signs and signals of a be perfect driver.
Right. Wow.
You know?
Mm.
The,
Well, I've got another character that I
oh
I
yeah.
like, less serious, but also kind of a be perfect. One of my best, or one of my favorite, not best, one of my favorite TV shows ever. I think it's my favorite TV show ever, The Friends. Monica Geller. So Monica, Ross's sister, she was always like, be perfect. And everything must be categorized, everything must be labeled, placed at a
Mm,
90-degree angle. Messy room is like a personal failure, right? And when there was
mm.
something messy or something untidy, it was her own personal failure or a kind of unachievement or underachievement. So, and she was always trying to be the best hostess or the cleanest person or win everything that she could, just for the heck of it, not even because she liked it.
I
So,
mean, that's a great. I know Friends is like a comedy sitcom, but it's a great. That character symbolizes a lot of what actually goes on in people's worlds. Like, people can go way overboard cleaning. You know what I mean? Like they can, and that's a good kind of sign that there might be a be perfect driver kicking in. That they're,
right.
you know, they're kind of trying to sterilize everything and have things in a certain way, ornaments placed in a certain way,
Hmm.
and that's it gets a bit difficult then when kids come in who naturally just want to
Mm.
touch things or be curious and so they might move something and
No.
oh, get away from there. You know what I mean? Like so that's the be perfect kind of being overdone. And I
Right.
know, cleaning can be a type of meditation, right?
True.
But this is when it's gone a little bit too far. Like it's that they're getting so frustrated that something's out of place or something isn't
Mm.
spotless. And that's causing stress rather than reducing stress. And I
Right.
think there's a good kind of rule of thumb with these kind of drivers. Are they being helpful or are they hindering?
Right.
Because it can go
Yes.
either way.
Yes, and that's a very good point. Are they actually helping, or is it just kind of I don't know if it's the right way to say it, but the first thing that came to mind, is it helpful or is it a coping mechanism of some sort? So, for example, cleaning, as
Yeah.
in, is that am I just do I just want it to be clean for now because I think it's a little bit untidy, or am I worried about something else and this is the only way I can, kind of
Yeah. And who am I
calm
doing it
myself down?
for? Do you know what I mean? Like, because
Yeah.
the drivers they're put in us, if that makes sense.
Right.
We're still doing it for mom and dad. Even though
Mm.
we're grown adults ourselves. So we need to figure out like where's the pressure coming from, and is it
Right.
helpful or not so? And actually, it pops into my mind. Michael Jordan,
Mm.
he actually used to talk about this. If you look at some of his interviews, he'd say, I go out and I want to play the the perfect game,
Mm.
and then he'd say, but I know that's not possible because there's no such
Right.
thing as perfection. So he's been able to integrate it to say, I want
Wow.
to do really, really well and stretch myself, push myself, but I'll never get to the most perfect game because there isn't one. It's an illusion. But I like to use that energy to kind of get myself ready for a
Fired up.
game or sharp and focused. So he's been able to integrate it better than some sports people, that's for sure.
So would that be one of the ways how to integrate the Be Perfect driver in your day-to-day life is kind of understand or kind of allowing it to be there, but also understanding that perfection, for the lack of a better word, is unattainable?
Yes, yes, because by doing that, we move it out of when when we think about transaction analysis, we're thinking parent, adult, child,
Hmm.
and these messages are coming from they're in our parent ego state, and they're talking to our inner child and kind of
Right.
you know giving commands in a way, right?
Mm.
But we integrate it through our adult. So what you just said there, Ali, is I know it's not possible. Perfection is not
Mm.
possible. So I shouldn't be giving myself a hard time for not achieving it because it was never achievable in the first place. Right there is we move into our adult because we bring in reality.
Mm.
Yeah. We can also go, but I do want to do really well,
Right.
right? Or I do want to push myself here because I want that sense of achievement and reward and satisfaction. That's all fine, but it's coming from my adult rather than a command from my parent.
I see what you're saying. So it's kind of if the internal dialogue is more forcing, then it might be creating a lot more pressure. If it's actually a dialogue, do I really want to push myself here, or do I want to kind of, stay a little bit what do I want to achieve with this? And
Bingo.
let's see what the real answer or what the honest answer is from myself. And you know what? It's actually this kind of segment is a great segue to how it manifests at work because
Oh,
I
yes.
or the kind of the be perfect driver, how it manifests at work, because I think a lot of it does manifest at work, specifically because we have authoritative figures and authority generally at work. There's a lot of it. There's a lot of hierarchical relationships and everything. And I was kind of looking into how it manifests at the workplace, and one of them would be diminishing returns. So as in we might spend
Mm,
20% of the time to get to, say, 90% of the quality and then spend all the rest of our energy just to get that perfect 10% right. Whereas it's already good enough
yeah.
to go with it, right? That's one. And it creates some kind of procrastination paralysis
Mm,
kind of understanding, right? So the fear of not doing something perfectly or making a mistake
mm-hmm.
already creates this inability to do something or fight, flight, freeze, the freeze kind of element. I just freeze up. I don't think I want to do anything because I don't want to make a mistake, or I'll be overly cautious in doing something not to commit a mistake, right? I think this is one that I struggle with at work a lot, would be poor delegation and micromanagement.
Okay, yeah.
So as in, if I want something done, I'm gonna do it. You know, I don't trust anyone else to do a great job. And especially at the beginning of my career, that was a big thing. And I
Yeah.
kind of, but the problem there was I didn't know what I really wanted. So, so I didn't know what exactly I wanted as an output. That's why I just made it hard on myself for
Mm,
those particular reasons. But I think a lot of it then turned into it was difficult to explain to other people what I wanted, and but I wanted it to be perfect, but I didn't know what exactly should have been done. It's kind of that understanding. And the fourth thing is it basically limits innovation. So if you want to do
yeah.
something new, again, the mere thought of messing up or making a mistake already stops you from doing something innovative,
Giving it a go. Yeah. Yeah.
giving it a go. I don't think this podcast would have been there if we were to be perfect people. You know what I mean?
No way. We'd still be procrastinating.
So what do you think about doing a podcast? Hmm.
We'd still be talking about it, wouldn't we? As opposed to just getting in and
Imagine
doing it.
now we'd be on season three. Yeah. But the last but not least, I think all of that and the word that I told you, like it feels heavy, leads
Mm,
to
mm,
physical and emotional burnout.
mm,
I think
mm,
because it's always so heavy because the person puts so much pressure on themselves
mm, mm.
that it always leads to just being overwhelmed or anxious or just nervous, stressed all the time. So I think that's how it sometimes manifests itself at work. I'm sure there's multiple other examples, but these are the ones that kind of stood out for me.
Yeah, there's lots of great themes there, and you're spot on, Ollie, because there's, with the Be Perfect driver, there's a sense of trying to control. You're trying to control something, and that then brings along pressure. Like what the example you said there earlier in your career, you'd control the situation by not delegating.
Mm,
I'll hang on to myself. You know what I mean? Because then I know the quality of it, that kind of stuff, and there becomes an element of mistrust, either of the other members of the team or the situation, or that it's going to go well either way. You know what I mean? It's more openness, and
right,
you definitely do see it in managers, particularly around presentations, for example. You'll see it kind of come into play there, because there's a deadline and there's this idea you're doing in front of people, and this, I can't make a mistake, or I need to know all the answers. Not possible, because you don't know what the questions are going to be. You could have a
no,
good take in it. And you can see managers, click into the Be Perfect driver when they start to mess with other people's presentations. They'll get in and start putting in words, or changing the grammar and all this kind of stuff, even though it was absolutely fine. And that can really drive the team mad, because it's like, hang on a second, I've put a lot of work into this and I know what it is, and you overnight you've gone in and changed it. Now I don't know. It's like, but that's what they're doing. They're trying to, oh, I gotta
true.
make it better, better. In their head, they're thinking they're improving it, but they're just not. They get into the be perfect driver. And you actually came across the antidote,
Okay,
Ollie, in what you were talking about there, which is good enough.
right.
That's
Okay.
the antidote to the be perfect. This is good enough, or I'll be good enough, or I'll do enough, or is enough. You know what I mean? So it's not the be perfect
Mm.
trying to makes you feel like there's always more you have to do. You know what I mean? And of course there is, but you're never going to satisfy that. Sometimes you go, no, that's good enough as it is. And your example of our podcast is spot on. Like we just kind of, let's just get into it and do it and see what happens.
Well, let's see. You
Here
know
we
what,
are.
what else stood out is the comparison between the Goose and Master Shifu as well.
Oh yes,
I think Be Perfect is Master Shifu and the Goose is, yeah, it's good enough. Yeah, I
yeah.
love you the way you are, son. Yeah, you're a panda who loves to eat. Perfect. Go ahead. Eat all the dumplings, you know?
Yeah, yeah, but of course he then can be a bit too loose as well. Do you know what I mean?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But
Fair
I
enough.
think I think he is a really good foil. They are two different characters. And that's a really good example. Spot on.
Mm. So listen, we're at nearly 27 minutes,
Oh,
and I'm not going to use the hurry up driver. But how do you think we've progressed with unpacking Be Perfect today in today's episode?
I think we did. I think we did it well. We didn't do it perfectly, and that's a good thing. But I think
Is it
we
good
did.
enough?
I
Is it
think it
good
is good
enough?
enough. I think it is good enough, and I think most people resonate with it, right? Because it's there in all of us to a certain degree. But it's when it gets more stressful
True.
that we like you were saying about burnout. That's a real good indication that it's in overdrive. You know.
It's time to switch on that good enough button on t-shirts. I was like, good enough.
Okay, let's
I
do
like
it.
that. So listen, dear viewers, dear listeners, thank you for being with us on season 3 and on this episode of OK Everyday, where Jason and I we started talking about drivers, and today we focused on, and driver behaviors. Today we focused on Be Perfect, that driver. You know that driver. You have that driver. Let's see how we can tackle it together. And if you like this video, press that like button, share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're interested in the TA content, amazing, you're in the right place. Click the subscribe button and we'll keep you informed of every new OK Everyday episodes coming out soon. In any case, we really hope that you stay okay
Every day.
every day.